Sims Walker, knocked down.
Oh my God! Davis is going running all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
In trouble. He's going to be sacked. No, gets away. He runs, gets away again, goes to the 40, gets away again.
Jackson takes it himself. Look at him dart back and forth. Oh! He broke his ankles.
I have never seen this before in my life.
Still looking. Firing. Near corner. It's caught!
Denver! Unbelievable!
And welcome to the Fourth Down Fiasco.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fourth Down Fiasco, your go-to podcast for all things football, brought to you by BetStamp. BetStamp is the sportsbookie of all sportsbookies. They got a little bit of everything over there. FanDuel, BetMGM, Caesars, Bet365, all the big name sportsbookies. You can go there. You can go to signupexpert.com/fiasco. Place a $10 bet. We know that football season is over, but we still got basketball. We got hockey. Shout out my Washington Capitals. All the good stuff out there. So make sure you check that out. But for today's show with me, I have the end of an era heir, Tanner Vinsky, and the season 2 sensation, Danny Weber, because y'all's nicknames coincide with the fact that season 1 is ending today. How are we feeling, fellas?
It was a good run.
We made it.
Danny, you saying good run makes it sound like we're just stopping the show. So we're not stopping the show, ladies and gents. We're going to take a little bit of a break, kind of recuperate, and we're launching again. Our main content will start up again in April, but March 13th, we will have a free agency episode just for old time's sake. But April 3rd, we will kick off season 2 of the Fourth Down Fiasco as we gear up for the European League of Football, which is probably where we have most of our fans to begin with. So very excited for season 2. It's going to be a good time. We're going to try our best to have more social media content, more videos, and maybe more bonus episodes of the pod, interviews, things like that. Y'all know what we did the last ELF season. It was pretty bomb. I mean, we were able to have the likes of, Magic Zach on the show, along with Jaime Lustau from the Madrid Bravos, and so many other people in between, reporter Alex Malchow, swung by for an episode or two. So we'll definitely have more folks on the show and a little bit more insight into the European League of Football. So we're very excited.
It should be a really good year.
It'll be 2025 is the year of the elf. I am not a Chinese fabulist, but I think that that's what the ancestors were trying to tell us. So with that, let's go ahead. Let's talk about the most anticipated and unfortunately most disastrous game of the season, the Super Bowl. So Philadelphia whooped that ass, unfortunately. We Cowboys fans were hate watching as hard as we could. But yeah, did y'all see anything in particular you wanted to talk about that, what was it, 40-22 walloping?
22 is being gracious with 16 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was a lot of garbage time points for sure.
Yeah. But I wish you could give the MVP to a group of people and not an individual, because their entire defense deserved MVP.
Agreed.
Like their front four made Patrick Mahomes' night a living nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Personally, I think that the MVP of the game should have been the lady that brought the voodoo doll of Patrick Mahomes into the stadium and was stabbing it repeatedly while he was getting sacked. I saw the video. It was pretty incredible. She was stabbing it, and then they pan up, and he gets sacked. And there was no flag. So
that's funny. We talked about a voodoo doll in New Orleans as well. So glad we
went there. So I don't know if listeners don't know if you believe in voodoo or not, but I can tell you firsthand that it's real.
Yeah, it definitely worked.
Yeah, definitely worked. I guess let me ask y'all this, because there's not really a ton to take away from the Super Bowl other than all three phases of Philly dominated all three phases of Kansas City. what are the implications of a Super Bowl like this moving forward, as far as like fandom is concerned and just general direction of how we set up preemptively going into the Super Bowl as fans and stuff? Like how do we tamper expectations to ensure that, we're not just completely bored out of our minds when something like this happens?
Well, this isn't the only Super Bowl blowout that we've seen in our lives, right? I mean, we had the Seahawks one back in 2013 where they absolutely dismantled the Broncos. So this does happen every once in a while. This was definitely the most, I mean, to be fair, back then I didn't keep up the football as much as I nearly do now. But this was extremely shocking just in the terms that all three of us thought the Chiefs were going to win. And I think most people thought going into this game the Chiefs were going to pull it off because they just had the formula of better head coach, better quarterback, and they had the playoff resume. And, a lot of the Philly team that's there wasn't really there during their first run. I mean, a couple of their guys have stuck around, but it's mostly an entirely new constructed roster. Yes, it's the same from the one that appeared prior, but they lost in that one. So I think what it really does show is just how good Philly was. And I think a lot of that was, I mean, really the whole playoff run, we were all kind of discrediting Philly as much as we could, right? We were all kind of like, well, I mean, they're probably going to lose the Bucs. The Bucs make it out of the first round because, I don't really trust Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. Then the Rams game, it was one throw away from them losing, but we all picked over Rams because it's like, well, we trust Sean McVay and Matt Stafford more. We all picked him over the Commanders, but going in the Super Bowl, it was just, from face value, this Philly roster didn't seem like they were going to pull it off. But when you actually analyze the roster and how well constructed it's been, it makes a lot of sense that they were able to have this dominant of a playoff run. I mean, Howie Roseman, their GM, has been insane since drafting Jalen Hurts. I mean, if you look at their first and second round picks over the last 5 years, they're all hits. Like, this is one of the deepest rosters we've ever seen in a Super Bowl. So it really shouldn't be shocking that this was the result. It's just shocking that, Philly was told, all right, you're going to have to win this game off the arm of Jalen Hurts, and they were actually able to do that.
Yeah.
I know we talked last week where, if the Chiefs lose and they get beat by Jalen Hurts, props to the Eagles because they shut down Barkley. He was a non-factor in this game.
Yep. Well, and, to Casey's credit, that's the game plan I think any of us would have rolled into the Super Bowl. I mean, because they made sure they were, hey, look, you were not getting, as soon as you hit the line of scrimmage, we got 3 bodies on you coming from every direction. And
also, whatever cleats he was wearing was not working. He did have some all over the cleats.
But I mean, still, slips or no slips, there was a Chiefs player within arm distance of him every time that ball was snapped. Yeah. Didn't matter if they were going in hard on the play action pass or not. Their front four, that's what their number one job was hit Barkley as hard as I can. And to your point, Danny, you got to give Jalen Hurts his credit where credit's due. He stepped up. He made some big throws. He made some big runs. And, aside from the one interception, made all the right decisions, Yeah.
Yeah, that one pick was pretty dumb, but
yeah.
So I pulled up the draft picks since 2020 for the Eagles. They missed in 2020 on their first rounder. They got Jalen Reagor, but since then, their second rounder in 2020 was Jalen Hurts. On their first and second rounders, first, second, and third rounders were Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, Milton Williams. In 2022, their first and second and third was Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, Nakobe Dean. In 2023, it was Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith in the first 2 rounds. And then this year, Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean in the first 2 rounds. They just haven't missed a draft pick in the first 2 rounds since Jalen Reagor.
Yeah.
I also saw the Carson Wentz trade to Indianapolis. They ended up getting with the picks they got from the various trades with Carson Wentz. They ended up with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Cooper DeJean, and there's one other person, all for Carson Wentz.
Which is crazy because Carson Wentz did nothing for the Colts, you know?
Yeah, he was done after a year.
So what I'm hearing is Carson Wentz actually won Philadelphia the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he was there. He could
wraparound way, yeah.
Mahomes' water bottle on the sideline. Like, hey, you forgot how to play football. Like, just spiked his water bottle a little bit on Sunday. Carson Wentz could have. He was there.
Yeah, that's funny. Also, white boy stock has gone up significantly. Danny, I know that you're very excited about the Cooper DeJean pick six, which we looked it up while we were at work. There has never been a white man to have a pick six in the Super Bowl ever, or any NFL championship, even predating the Super Bowl era. There has not been a white man to have a pick six in whatever championship game in, top football history, basically. Which is crazy.
Shout out Cooper DeJean, your white father's favorite player.
Yeah.
And good for him having his first NFL pick on his birthday in the Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl, yeah, that's crazy.
Dude, that's a good birthday.
How do you? That's like your peak. Like he just peaked.
Yeah, I'm like, he can't have a better birthday than that. Honestly, I'd retire. I'd be like, look, it's been real.
Pick six against Taylor Swift, and he's done.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. So what do y'all think that this means for Kansas City moving forward? Because obviously, we just talked about Philadelphia. They not only are they just so well built, but they've still got a couple more years to be good because, they've got so many young guys that are going to be coming back that are under contract for at least another year or two. So,
I do think some of the GOAT debates for the three various GOAT debates, they've kind of cooled down a little bit with greatest coach of all time, greatest tight end of all time, and greatest quarterback of all time.
Fair enough.
Maybe that's just a me opinion. Tanner, what's your thought on that?
I think the Mahomes GOAT debate was always early to begin with, because it's one of those things with Tom Brady's longevity is just so insane. That no one's ever going to be able to match the longevity. So you got to match the peak, right? That's your argument to being the GOAT over him. So the best, and the thing is though, is the peak still has to be relatively long just for how long Brady played. And if you look at a stats by stats comparison pre-30 for Brady and Mahomes, even with this terrible loss, Mahomes still has all the better stats through regular season and postseason, despite how poorly he played in this game. But I don't think that's enough. It's just looking at only your first 7 years as a starter to get that type of conversation. So if Mahomes ever really wants to cross Brady as the GOAT, he needs to do it for another 10 years. And that's not even an exaggeration. To play for another 10 years at an all-time level that outpaces Tom Brady. Then you can say, okay, well, yeah, Tom Brady played until 46, I think, 47. And it's okay, so Tom Brady played all the way until then. But, Mahomes played until 40 and had better stats and numbers all the way through. So those 7 years, you can kind of take him out because the peak's better. But this does definitely put a stain on Mahomes' record. I think he's going to have to do a lot to get this monkey off his back, which is possible because what's it called? It is possible, though, because, if you look at it with LeBron has a huge stain on his legacy, which is that Mavs final.
Baby.
He was genuinely bad. He was not good in those finals whatsoever.
Average
for a long I know, it was terrible. And for a long time, people always said, well, this is why LeBron James can't be the GOAT because he had this terrible finals performance. Look at LeBron James now, and he's still averaging 25 plus at the age of 40, right? So now it's getting to the point where it's okay, he had that really bad Mavs finals, but since then he's made up for it, right? Twofold. And Mahomes still has the possibility to do so. The only issue is that this was a really bad game. It was a really bad game for Mahomes. And although Brady never had a game that bad, I think if he had some of the insane production that LeBron had post the Mavs final, I think the debate could happen. But I think for now, the debate has died down. We can not really discuss it for a while. and then we'll see in a couple of years what happens, and go from there.
Well, I think that the losing to a inferior quarterback like Jalen Hurts, and that is not a slight on Jalen Hurts, who had a phenomenal Super Bowl, and again, besides that one pick, really made all the right decisions. I'm not trying to discredit that, but pound for pound, player for player, Mahomes is a better quarterback, has been and will continue to be a better quarterback, and is the person that if any, general manager in the NFL was asked, tomorrow you could have whatever quarterback you want to start your franchise, they're all saying Patrick Mahomes, with the exception of maybe Buffalo and Baltimore saying their own guys.
29 to 32 franchises are taking Patrick Mahomes.
Exactly.
Even Philly.
Yeah. And so, it's kind of reminiscent of how Brady lost to Eli Manning twice. And so, I think Patrick can definitely get back into the GOAT debate if he wins another, 2 rings. If all of a sudden we're looking and he's got 5 rings, 5, 6, or is able to catch up to Tom and get 7, then it's definitely he should be the GOAT, because even the counting stats are better. But this is, to your point, Tanner, a stain. It was a shit performance. Even whenever he wasn't running for his life, he just was making bad throws, just not being the Mahomes that we're used to seeing in a situation like this.
I mean, I'll give him some credence on the second pick. He had a lineman literally get run into him on that second one. Right. And it's like, all right, I mean, like, what are you really supposed to do? But the first pick was actually just bad.
Yeah, that was just him.
The pick 6 was just bad. Like, he did not need to throw that ball, but he just panicked and did.
Mm-hmm. And we're not used to seeing
linebacker though. That second pick, that linebacker was stretching out.
And another crazy wraparound thing that kind of got me thinking, like, with just the Josh Allen debate, I think if Josh Allen was in that Super Bowl, I don't think he would have looked as bad as Mahomes did, which is kind of insane to say, but I think just with Allen's just ability to rush out of the pocket to a better degree than Mahomes does. Like, I think if you would have put Josh Allen in that situation, I think that he still probably would have lost. But I don't think he would have looked as bad as Mahomes did. And I don't think that means like Josh Allen's a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. But I do think, like, when you look at it, and if we see situations like this in the future, you could see Josh Allen starting to bridge that gap as it gets forward. And I think that's what really helps a lot of these other AFC quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. This gives them room to be this gives them room to start to take off that pedestal of Patrick Mahomes, right? Because if Patrick Mahomes got the 3-peat, none of those guys in their career were ever going to be able to match what Mahomes did, Yeah. But I think at this stage, with this loss, I think there's room for them to start to overtake Patrick Mahomes. And it's not going to be when he's 40. It's going to be maybe when he's in his 30s. And if they can do that, that'd be amazing. I still think there's a lot of work to be done. But that's kind of what I thought after this game is that, Mahomes he's still number 1 in a lot of people's eyes and still in my eye in the current starting quarterbacks. But the gap's closing. It's not as immeasurable as it was before.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a good point.
What age did Brady retire?
46.
I'll look it up. I mean, he was like 46 or 47.
Dude, it's crazy to think that Brady's first Super Bowl win came against Kurt Warner, and his last Super Bowl win came against Pat Mahomes. Like, just the sheer longevity of that career is nuts.
What's also crazy, Patrick Mahomes 29, and we're talking about him in the GOAT debate with a dude who played until he's 45. Mahomes still has 16 years till he hits 45. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a whole multiple NFL lifespans for multiple players.
He retired at 45.
Yeah.
45. He's 47 right now.
Yeah, but it's like Mahomes still has 16 years or 16 seasons.
That's crazy.
To play as long as Tom Brady did. But I saw a Tom Brady stat. In all 10 of his Super Bowls, Brady walked off the field tied or with the lead.
Now I'm seeing what you're saying. That's crazy.
Like he never was losing a Super Bowl the last time he stepped on the field during the specific game. Like he would finish a drive, get off the field, and the defense would lose it, or go into overtime.
Wait, so sorry, I'm doing the math now. You said 10 Super Bowls. He has 7 rings. I know he lost 2 against Eli. Who is the other team he lost?
Eagles.
Oh, you're so right, because he lost to Nick Foles. Yeah. Sorry.
We do say like Patrick Mahomes lost to like Jalen Hurts, but it's like Brady lost to Eli Manning and Nick Foles.
He lost to a second-string quarterback.
That's right. Like, yeah, that's the thing. And a lot of people, I'm seeing a lot of parallels because, I mean, this is the exact same thing we went through with Tom Brady. People were so hyped when the Eagles beat Tom Brady, right? Like, it was like, holy shit, we like slayed the dragon, like everything's good. And people thought it was the end of the Pats, like, dynasty, you know? Like, everyone was like, all right, this is it. Like, the Patriots are done. Tom Brady then won 2 more Super Bowls afterwards. So the thing is like, I see people like right now, they're doing their victory laps, and for good reason. Like, this was a huge win. That dynasty's still there. And just because they didn't repeat doesn't mean they're not going to win again next year. Like, and I really wouldn't put it past them to win the Super Bowl next year because they're going to be pissed off, you know? Like, you didn't see the rebels in Star Wars celebrate after Yavin 4. You know, they still had people getting fucking beat. They're still getting their ass beat on
Star Wars.
Like, they didn't celebrate until they destroyed the second Death Star. Like, the dynasty's still there. Like, you can't like sit there and say, oh, it's over. We stopped them. Like, this is so good. We never have to worry about the Chiefs again. Mm-hmm. Unless, like, I think if Spags go to a new team, gets a new head coach job, if Kelsey retires, if Chris Jones retires, then I think the Chiefs will struggle a lot, right? And when I mean a lot, I think that they'll be a playoff berth team and maybe losing the divisional instead of the championship game, right?
Yeah.
But that, like, they would struggle. But if all those guys come back, there's no reason they shouldn't be back here again next year, you know?
Yeah.
Well,
it's crazy like how bad Mahomes played in the regular season. Well, just in the season in general. Like, his stat line was bad. They still went 15-2 or 15-1 when he played.
Yeah. The defense, number one, really carried them to that. And number two, you know, I think especially now they have for so long gotten away with, you know, outside of Travis Kelce, there's no one else really here, but we're fine. We don't need Cheetah. Patrick Mahomes can literally just carry us across the line. We'll be fine. And this is the first season and also Super Bowl that we've seen, oh, Patrick Mahomes is in fact a human being. And so I think that in the draft, they're probably going to target some of those, you know, definitely some splash players, as well as probably target a couple offensive linemen as well, because they, despite the 40 that Philadelphia dropped on them, they have a Super Bowl worthy defense. They really do. Because, you know, 7 points came from the pick six thing. And then, you know, your defense can only be out there for so long whenever your offense is getting shut out before you just start.
Yeah. What was the time of possession?
They had 23 minutes in the first half, I think, for the Eagles.
So 23-7 for time of possession for first half.
Yeah, that's
I think nuts. So. Yeah, dude, I don't blame the defense at all for this loss.
No. Like the Chiefs didn't get cross midfield until the second half.
Yeah, the Eagles had 37 minutes of time of possession, where the Chiefs only had 23.
Yeah,
and the majority of that 23 came
garbage time.
Was in the last quarter.
Yeah. But yeah, at one point Mahomes had a QBR of 10. I think it was like at halftime his QBR was 10. Like, he was 8 of 16 for 24 yards and 2 picks.
That's nuts. So yeah, they will definitely target some offensive firepower for the upcoming season because they need it.
They
need line help.
Absolutely abused by Sweat.
They need line help. They didn't blitz. Yep. Like, he was just getting pressured without being blitzed. Like, that's insane. Like, usually you would think like this type of game, it's like, oh, they must have just blitzed the shit out of him and done that. No, the Eagles defense was just so disruptive that they were able just to call regular plays, and the quarterback was still getting hit. Like,
yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
insane. I thought the Chiefs line was
45.
fine this year. I can't believe it was this bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody's going to lose their job. I can say that much. And it won't be the quarterback that just, that 2 years ago signed a 10-year deal for $500 million or whatever it was.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
But any final thoughts on the Super Bowl before we talk about NFL honors and how they also screwed that up too? No final thoughts.
I guess shout out Xavier Worthy. At least he did something,
Yeah, the only guy who tried. I think that he's going to have a breakout season next season, to be quite honest. But
I could see it.
They'll still need, in order for him to have a breakout season, though, they still have to have, a real wide receiver too. I'm sorry, D-Hop is not who D-Hop used to be.
He's washed.
He is beyond washed. Yeah, cannot get separation for shit. But yeah, let me pull up the full NFL honors.
The Chiefs need to rework their wide receiver room.
Yes, most definitely. And
I am glad that D-Hop at least got a touchdown in the Super Bowl. It's probably time for him to retire, but at least he got that. No. And you could kind of tell the Eagles were playing a little soft on him. I think they were we got the win. Let's let him get this. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people in the Eagles defense grew up watching D-Hop be dominant.
All right, so NFL honors also were released leading up to the Super Bowl. Josh Allen took home MVP. I know that y'all put in my little 2 cents and I said Saquon personally, and I still stand by that. But I think that Josh is a more than fine individual to get the MVP because he had a hell of a season.
Well, I saw a report. The 50 voters didn't know their ballots were going to be publicized.
Mm-hmm.
Same people that vote for the honors awards vote for all pro teams. So all 50 voters voted Lamar Jackson first all pro team, but then whatever in the span of 2 days decided to vote Josh Allen MVP. It was the first time in
did you see
15 years that what?
Did you see Orlovsky's rationale for it?
No.
Because he was one of the voters. He said the reason they went with that is because for all pro, apparently the voting regime tells you to vote based on stats. They don't tell you to vote based off their team or anything like that. They tell you vote who has the better stats. And then for MVP, they say vote for the player who contributed most to the winning on their franchise. So he was
kind of makes sense.
He was saying, well, Lamar had the better statistical year, but Josh Allen had to do more for his team, and his team ended up having the better record. So that's why he voted Josh Allen for MVP, which I think is the way it should be done. But obviously people saw that and were really pissed off. So.
No, that makes sense, though. I mean, having different voting criteria, it's the right way to do it. But
I mean,
I am dumbfounded that the 5th ever Triple Crown for wide receiver, first ever 17 touchdowns, got 0 first place votes. Not a single one for Offensive Rookie of the Year.
You mean offensive player, but
Offensive Player of the Year, yeah.
I hear what you're saying, but brother, a 2,000-yard rushing season and the what was it, second best, third best record in the NFL. Winning does matter with these awards, which sucks. It's not fair. But
out of 50 people, not one person said, "Yeah, he should get first."
Winning matters. It does. It does.
I don't know. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow got more first place votes than Jamar Chase did.
I mean, somebody's got to throw Jamar the ball.
Yeah, but no, I don't get how you're more likely to have a 2,000-yard season rushing than you are to get a Triple Crown.
Fair.
But I just wish awards aren't. I wish these awards wouldn't be team awards. Like, they're individual awards, not, oh, well, this guy was on a team that went 15-1 or 15-2.
Well, it doesn't always happen that way, because when we look at Defensive Player of the Year, Patrick Surtain II won, which, Denver was a fine team. They made the playoffs as the 7th seed and have a very bright future. I'm not trying to discredit that in any way, shape, or form, but that one was a real head scratcher. Patrick Surtain over the likes of like TJ Watt. If you want to say winning matters, I get why Myles Garrett didn't win, because the Browns were absolute ass. But, Zach Bond for Philly, I thought, better choice. Just didn't make sense. And what's also frustrating with specifically choosing Patrick Surtain for this is, if that's the case, a guy who he had 2 picks this season, right?
I think he had 4.
He had four, I believe.
4, okay. Versus last year, spacing on his name now. Cowboys, Deron Bland, thank you. Deron Bland had 6 pick sixes. The man scored 36 points on his own as a defensive player. Didn't even sniff the Defensive Player of the Year award. So the voting criteria for this stuff, man, is just baffling to me.
No, yeah, it's weird. It's like you mentioned TJ Watt and Bomb. Like, yeah, Eagles bomb, great. But I'm bringing up Cincinnati again. But Trey Hendrickson accounted for 49% of his team stats, or his team sacks, which is like highest all time for one individual player.
And y'all's record isn't different enough from Denver's to say that
we beat Denver.
Well, they had one more win though.
They had one more win, but we beat Denver. Like Patrick Surtain did not play well against Cincinnati.
Yeah. And I feel like I saw a couple of different games where Patrick Surtain got beat up a little bit out there.
There were a couple of games where he was just like not trying.
Yeah, so that was a real head scratcher. That one really made me mad. Offensive Rookie of the Year, I think, was a shoo-in. Jaden Daniels. I mean, a top 2, if not the best rookie season for a quarterback ever. Can't think of anything else better than that, because there's never been a quarterback to win a Super Bowl there, or go to a Super Bowl their rookie year. So, that was a given. Defensive Rookie of the Year. See, I'm not nearly as well versed in this one.
Was that a pun?
Because Jared Verse won. That was unintentional, but
good work.
Thanks, I appreciate that. The A1 journalism right here. That's why we got re-upped for season 2.
Yeah, our whole $0 contract extension.
But everybody cool with Jared Verse's Defensive Rookie of the Year again? This is one that I don't know quite as much about.
Tanner and I both pick Verse.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Tanner, thoughts on the other awards? We kind of jumped you a little bit. I don't know if you had anything to put in for.
Honestly, I was mostly okay with the awards this year. I think there's always room for. In the past, there's always been really head-scratching cases. This year, I didn't see it as much. And, I think there's a couple of decisions where it's kind of strange they went the route they did. But a lot of the candidates this year were, really, really good. There wasn't anybody who was actually, I felt like kind of just getting shoe-in for value or anything like that. So I know there's been a lot of controversy with this award season, but this is one of the few award seasons I've actually sat through where I looked at the results and I was like, yeah, I'm not mad at any of this. Whereas last year, I mean, I was irrationally upset about the Myles Garrett thing. Myles Garrett winning the award last year was crazy. And, I'll always give the NFL credence here. They do a much better job than the NBA, so I can't be too upset about them. Because I've seen the NBA do acts of terrorism for their NBA honors.
Yes.
And I don't think there's any other way to put it. I think it is actually terrorism, the way they elect some of the people to their awards. So
Yeah,
I'm not too passionate about it. Sorry, go for it, Jordan.
I was just going to say they get just a little too into the weeds of like, well, we should have given it to this player last year, so we're going to give it to them this year when they don't deserve it.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I look at the NFL this year, and I think the Pat Surtain pick's a little weird, but, I mean, he was the best corner, and I don't really hate it as much as, like, for example, like if they would have given it to Myles Garrett for being on a 3-win team, I think that would have been kind of ridiculous. I think for Saquon winning Offensive Player of the Year, I mean, I probably would lean Lamar if you're not going to give him MVP. But, I mean, he had just such an insane rushing season that I think even though his case might not be as good as some of the others, I think he does have a case at least, and he does deserve it for how good he played. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, just looking at those two, I mean, like, I don't feel like neither of them don't deserve it, so I'm not really that passionate about somebody else deserving it more than them, right?
Yeah. I still think Derrick Henry had a better rushing season than Barkley.
I would push back on that because, I mean, Barkley has the play of the year, basically. And to have the play of the year and you didn't even score a touchdown, do you know how hard that is? That brother did a backwards hurdle, and did it without, snapping his spine because he probably could have been really hurt on that play. Looking back on that was a really dumb decision, but it paid off. And it is the most watched highlight from this season. Which is crazy.
I think if you're looking at the raw efficiency numbers, I think Derrick Henry is the better running back than Saquon Barkley was this year. Saquon got a lot of touches. Mm-hmm. And in my personal headspace, I just think Derrick Henry's so dominant and the way he runs is just so unique that I always lean Derrick Henry over Saquon in these debates. However, Saquon did just he had so many explosive plays, and he was just a highlight machine. And I think that's what really led him to winning the award. I mean, because even though Derrick Henry had the higher end of highlight plays where his runs would go for longer, I mean, Saquon was breaking off a 60, 70 yard run almost every game. It was insane. Mm-hmm. So I think looking at it from a face value, I mean, Saquon was transforming that offense in a way that Philly hadn't been in the last probably 10 years. They haven't had a running back of that caliber, and I mean since early Shady McCoy, right? And
even then, Shady McCoy is not Saquon.
Is not Saquon Barkley, no.
Yeah.
But I mean, good for them putting one of the best running backs behind one of the best offensive line. Yeah.
The maths.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And
that's kind of why I was so frustrated with the playoffs at one point, because I'm we're sitting here and it's these teams are winning, and it's wow, it's really cool that running backs are so undervalued that they just get to go to these super teams and get paid nickels to win. That's the NFL's own fault. That's nobody else's fault besides the NFL for devaluing an important piece of the roster,
Yeah, it's something that has been integral to the league since its inception. I don't know. I do still have qualms with it, and no offense, Danny, comeback player of the year. DeMar Hamlin literally died, bro. The man literally died on the field. I am sorry. But the fact that man is even able to play football again, let alone he had a decent season, nothing spectacular, but he had a decent season. He was a good piece to that defense. Come on, man. The guy died. We watched him die on live television.
No, I agree.
That one, and then Kevin O'Connell for Coach of the Year. I just thought that there were better ones. You could have gone Dan Campbell. I know that they got embarrassed in their playoff game, but I mean, that's always a good story. I thought it should have been Dan Quinn taking a team with a losing record to then taking them to the NFC Championship game with a rookie quarterback. It's pretty insane. But yeah, I just thought it was a little wonky this year, but it's neither here nor there. I agree with assistant coach of the year, Ben Johnson. He did his thing. And then I don't think the one award that I feel like they don't ever really get wrong just because there's 1,000,000,001 candidates that are worthy is the Walter Payton Man of the Year. Like, I feel like every guy that's on that list is deserving.
Who ended up winning that? I missed that.
Eric Armstead, which don't really know a ton about him, but normally if you get the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, you deserved it.
No, yeah.
If you got nominated, you probably deserved it.
Yeah.
So. But
no, this NFL honors season was crazy. A lot of good individual seasons.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it was just a good year for football. You know, we had a lot of really good storylines. Like, you know, Sam Darnold, actually probably was also a better pick for comeback player of the year than Joe Burrow. Again, no offense, Danny. But like seeing what he was able to do and it kind of a resurgence. And I know that he fell off the last like 2 games, including that playoff game, but he did enough to where he is going to get paid somewhere by somebody, you know, tens of millions of dollars, and he's going to be all right. You know,
someone said he's going back to the Jets because they're getting rid of Aaron Rodgers.
Honestly, that would be the headline of the century. They have to fix the offensive line first. That is the problem.
The Jets need to get relegated. I'm sorry. They need to go play in Europe for a year and figure it out. I think I'm telling you, if you gave the Ryan Fire the resources that the New York Jets had, they would be a much better team. Like, they should switch spots for a year. I don't know. Like,
dude, that'd be sick.
That could be a good time. How would the NFL even make that work? Having a German team that far in a different time zone, like
people talk about having like a European division. It's like, no, the players would hate that.
It would be terrible.
It's like, imagine how many you'd go play like 4 away games a row in Europe, but it's like that's a month away. Like that would suck.
Yeah.
The way I was envisioning it is I was just going to send all the Jets players to go play in the ELF, but like they go play in the Ryan Fire Stadium and then the Ryan Fire take over MetLife. Just be like, you guys need to go have a good season if you're allowed to come back. You know, you need to.
Hey,
if you still lose over there, then you're not coming back. You know, we're now the New York Fire, right?
You better go undefeated.
You know, I would go watch a New York Fire game if we were ever able to make that happen. I would take a 3-day weekend out in New York. I'd spend however much money I needed to because I would be upfront and personal with that one.
Well, what's funny is one of the best GFL teams is called the New Yorker Lions. Well, maybe not one of the best, but there is a GFL team called the New Yorker Lions, like the brand New Yorker.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, it is funny the amount of teams that will just straight up steal branding from other teams.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean the Vienna Vikings.
Yes, yeah. Oops. The Wroclaw Panthers. I know that their panther is a little different, but the color scheme. Come on, what are we doing?
Yeah, the Raiders.
Thank you. Yes, with the silver and black.
They knew what they were doing. Yeah, also Vikings they're the same colors too. They didn't even try.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of talked about it a little bit ago. They're all sister cities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is why they do it.
Yeah.
But it's like, dang, you couldn't even they couldn't have made that purple a little different. They couldn't have made, instead of it being black and silver for Raiders to roll, that, maybe you did black and white instead. Like you could have tweaked it a little bit, but they said, nah, fam, we good.
At least the Vikings realized it last year and said, we want to not be the Minnesota Vikings.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because you could go any color for Vikings, right? Like you don't have to be purple and gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the color of a Viking?
I don't know, like white, brown, and red.
Flesh.
Lawn. I don't know. Yeah, if I was thinking Vikings, I would think red would be the first thing to come to my mind.
See, I'd think green and gray, oddly enough.
Yeah.
Most people would associate red or blue.
Okay. Yeah, they could go be blue. That's fine.
Yellow, red, purple, blue are the main colors.
Yeah, they could have gone red and yellow. I don't know. It's weird, but whatever. They're making it work. They're doing their thing.
Give me purple and blue.
Purple and blue could have been cool. Well, now we're talking about ELF instead of NFL. Do we have any last comments on the NFL honors before we end season 1? I'm proud of us, by the way.
I know, I am too. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
2023. Now we're here.
Now we're here, about to have a season 2, and about to hopefully have a really badass docket of players and interviews with different people and stuff. So, go us.
Should be sweet.
What are you most looking forward to the ELF season, Jordan? And Tanner, but start with Jordan.
Most looking forward to, I'm excited to see the Nordic team. I think that'll be really fun. I'm also really excited for the amount of NFL participation that this upcoming season is supposed to bring with different players and teams and coaches and stuff. And just the overall expansion of the league. You know, I know not necessarily expansion as far as the teams. I think it's the same number of teams, but expansion as far as, you know, we're starting to see the ELF grow, and, you know, they're taking players from the USFL. Like, people would rather play in the ELF than the USFL now. And we're starting to see former head coaches from the NFL, you know, go to the ELF. I mean, we've got 2 Super Bowl winning head coaches that are going to be facing off week 1. So yeah, I think I'm just really excited about the overall product. I think the ELF is making really big strides really quickly to make a better off-season option for football lovers.
Yeah. Tanner?
I think Jordan took most of the exciting parts of the league, so I'll just go with our role. I think ours is going to be sick. I'm excited to interview more players, hopefully more GMs. We can probably get Jaime, but I would like to get a couple more people to come on here, talk about the construction of their roster. And I think that's the thing I'm most excited for. Just, you know, reminding ourselves that, you know, we're not watching robots on TV. We're watching humans, seeing how they interact and all of that.
No, yeah. I'm looking forward to, I think the overall skill gap is kind of closed a little bit with the subtraction of Barcelona and Milano. Yep. I feel like it's going to be a lot more competitive season this year than it was last year.
I hope so. The second half of the year was pretty rough last year when it was just like blowout after blowout after blowout because the scheduling did not do a good job of pairing, you know, good teams against each other. Yeah. But that got fixed in the playoffs where
the scheduling this year is crazy. I mean, Vienna plays Paris twice, Rhine twice. Rhine plays Vienna twice, obviously, and then I forget they play Nordic twice. Like, their interconference games this year are crazy. But yeah, should be an exciting season. Looking forward to it.
No, it'll be a good time. We'll see what we can get scheduled towards the beginning of it.
No, yeah. Jordan, you want to send it away?
I can sure do that. So, yeah, no, definitely a lot of really exciting stuff on the horizon, especially with the European League of Football and your favorite guys at the Fourth Down Fiasco, Danny, Tanner, and Jordan, who are saying so long one last time for this season because we will be back with season 2 starting April 3rd. So, thanks so much, everybody, for listening. As always, we ask that you rate us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, the best way for us to grow the show, as well as following us on social media. You can follow us at @4thdown_pod on Twitter and at Fourth Down Fiasco on TikTok and Instagram. Again, check out our sponsor, BetStamp, at signupexpert.com/fiasco. Place a $10 bet. There's still other sports going on right now. But yes, this is us signing off for season 1. See y'all.
Peace.
And I'm gonna keep doing them both because they make me feel good.